The deadliest drug in the world is legal. The most brain-destructive substance known to science is sold in stores. And one of the most powerful addictions on the planet is sitting in your pocket right now. Most people think addiction means heroin, or cocaine, or something illegal, something extreme, something that happens to other people. Science disagrees. Today, I'm ranking the 7 worst addictions according to medical research, by how fast they hook you, how deeply they damage your brain, how many people they kill, and I'll tell you exactly what happens inside your body when each one takes hold. Before we start, if you or someone you love is dealing with any form of addiction, please don't face it alone. Speak to a doctor, reach out to addiction support services. You will not be judged. Links are in the description. Let's go. Number 7, sugar and ultra-processed food. I know, you're already skeptical, but stay with me for 60 seconds. In certain individuals, sugar consumption activates the same dopamine reward circuits as cocaine. Not metaphorically, neurologically, the same pathways, the same chemical cascade, the same craving loop. And here is what makes it uniquely dangerous compared to every other addiction on this list. You cannot quit. You cannot go cold turkey from food the way you can from alcohol or cigarettes. You have to keep consuming the substance while trying to break the dependency on one version of it. That is a biological trap that no other addiction creates. The food industry knows exactly what it is doing. Ultra-processed products are engineered with specific combinations of sugar, salt, and fat, designed to override your satiety signals and keep you eating past fullness. That is not an accident. That is product design. The medical consequence: chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, all driven in part by a dependency that most people don't even recognize as one because society tells them it's just a lifestyle choice. Number 6, screens and everything behind them. Screens are not the addiction. Screens are the delivery mechanism. What is actually addictive is the variable reward system. Every time you scroll, there is a chance, not a guarantee, a chance that the next post will be interesting, funny, beautiful, validating. That unpredictability is the same mechanism behind slot machines. Your brain releases small pulses of dopamine in anticipation of the reward, and it keeps going and going and going. Social media platforms are engineered to exploit this. The infinite scroll was designed specifically to eliminate the natural stopping point. Notifications create urgency and anxiety. Likes and comments create social validation loops. Every design decision is optimized to maximize the time your brain stays in that dopamine anticipation cycle. And then there is pornography, which follows the same neural pathway but with a far more powerful chemical response. The compulsive use of pornography activates what researchers describe as an escalation pattern identical to substance tolerance, requiring progressively more extreme stimulation to achieve the same dopamine response. In chronic users, brain imaging studies show measurable changes in prefrontal cortex activity, reduced capacity for impulse control and decision-making, comparable to changes seen in drug addiction. The consequences extend beyond screen time. Disrupted sleep architecture, reduced attention span, social comparison anxiety, depressive symptoms, and in severe cases, complete inability to function without continuous stimulation. Number 5, cannabis. And here I want to be precise, because cannabis is surrounded by more misinformation than almost any other substance. Cannabis is natural. That does not make it harmless. Arsenic is natural. The argument from nature proves nothing about safety. Approximately 20 to 30% of regular cannabis users develop a clinically significant addiction. But here is what most people don't know. We cannot predict in advance who will be in that percentage. Some people become dependent after 3 uses, others use for years without developing dependency. The individual neurobiological variability is enormous, and you do not know which category you are in until you are already in it. Beyond addiction, the research is unambiguous on one point. Cannabis use, particularly during adolescence and young adulthood, is associated with measurably increased risk of psychosis and schizophrenia in genetically susceptible individuals, depressive and anxiety disorders, and persistent cognitive deficits including memory impairment and reduced processing speed. These risks do not require dependency. They are associated with regular use. That is the conversation most cannabis discussions skip entirely. Number 4, alcohol. 3 million deaths per year globally, directly or indirectly caused by alcohol consumption. That number is not coming from prohibition activists. It comes from the World Health Organization. Alcohol is the only major addictive substance that you are actively encouraged to consume socially, offered repeatedly even after declining, and expected to justify not consuming. It is the only drug where abstinence requires social explanation. And alcohol checks every single box of what a dangerous addictive substance looks like. Physical dependency with a withdrawal syndrome that can be fatal. Alcohol withdrawal can kill, which is not true of most drugs. Cognitive impairment during use. Liver toxicity, cardiovascular damage, cancer risk. Alcohol is a Group 1 carcinogen, the highest classification, meaning there is sufficient evidence of human carcinogenicity. Neurological damage with chronic use, and profound social consequences, relationships, employment, accidents, violence. The additional danger of alcohol is denial. Because it is everywhere, because social drinking is normal, because the dependency builds gradually, most people with alcohol use disorder do not recognize themselves as having one. The normalization of the substance is itself a mechanism of harm. Number 3, opioids. This one requires context because opioids are also medicine. Opioids, including prescription painkillers like oxycodone and hydrocodone, as well as heroin and fentanyl, are among the most powerful pain management tools in medicine. They are also among the most addictive substances that exist. The opioid epidemic in the United States alone has killed over 500,000 people in the past 2 decades. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine, is now the leading cause of drug overdose death in the developed world. What makes opioid addiction particularly brutal is the physiological dependency it creates. The brain's natural opioid system, responsible for pain modulation, pleasure, and emotional regulation, is completely hijacked. The receptors downregulate. The brain stops producing its own natural pain-relieving and pleasure-producing molecules because it no longer needs to. The drug is doing it. When the drug is removed, there is no floor. The withdrawal is physically agonizing. And the craving is neurobiological, not psychological weakness. Relapse rates are extraordinarily high, not because people lack willpower, because the brain has been structurally reconfigured by the substance. Number 2, methamphetamine. If opioids hijack the opioid system, methamphetamine detonates the entire dopamine system. Methamphetamine causes dopamine release at levels 3 to 5 times higher than cocaine. The surge is immediate and overwhelming, and then it crashes. The post-methamphetamine crash is one of the most severe dysphoric states in all of addiction medicine, a period of anhedonia, depression, and cognitive impairment so extreme that users describe it as feeling like they will never experience pleasure again. Brain imaging studies in chronic methamphetamine users show destruction of dopamine transporters, the molecules responsible for recycling dopamine in the synapse. In some users, this damage does not fully reverse after stopping use. The brain's capacity for pleasure and reward has been chemically damaged, not temporarily suppressed, damaged. That is not hyperbole. That is what the neuroimaging shows. Methamphetamine addiction progresses faster than almost any other substance. The physical deterioration, dental destruction, skin lesions, accelerated aging is visible within months of regular use. And the cognitive and psychiatric consequences, paranoia, hallucinations, psychosis, can persist long after the substance is no longer being used. Number 1, tobacco, nicotine. 7 to 8 million deaths per year. Every year, more than any other addictive substance on this planet, including all illegal drugs combined. And nicotine achieves this while being legally available everywhere, marketed for decades with full government knowledge, and socially normalized to the point that most smokers do not think of themselves as drug users. Here's the neurobiological reality. Nicotine reaches the brain within 7 seconds of inhalation. 7 seconds. It binds to nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, triggers dopamine release, and activates the reward circuit so rapidly that the brain begins forming the associative memory, this substance equals reward, within the first few exposures. In some individuals, dependency begins within days of first use. The dependency rate for tobacco is among the highest of any substance. Approximately 32% of people who try cigarettes develop dependency, compared to 23% for heroin, 17% for cocaine. And here is the cruelest part of nicotine addiction. The substance kills slowly. Cardiovascular disease, lung cancer, COPD, stroke. These consequences develop over years and decades. The brain never makes the direct connection between the cigarette and the death sentence. The immediate reward is real. The long-term consequence is invisible. That temporal disconnection is what makes tobacco the most effective killing machine in the history of psychoactive substances. Now, let me give you the framework that makes all of this make sense. A drug, from a medical standpoint, is any substance that acts on the brain and creates dependency. Dependency means loss of control, compulsive use despite negative consequences, difficulty or inability to stop, tolerance requiring more of the substance, and withdrawal symptoms when stopping. What that definition makes clear is that the legal status of a substance has nothing to do with its danger. Nicotine is legal and kills 8 million people a year. Heroin is illegal and kills far fewer. The classification is political. The biology doesn't care. The second thing that definition makes clear is that the substance itself is not the entire story. What matters is what your brain does with it. Two people can use the same substance in the same quantity. One develops dependency, one does not. The individual neurobiological predisposition, shaped by genetics, early life experience, stress exposure, mental health, determines the response. That is why addiction is a medical condition, not a character flaw, not a moral failure, a medical condition with neurobiological mechanisms, risk factors, and treatment protocols. And that is why, if you recognize yourself or someone you love in any part of what I described today, the appropriate response is not judgment, it is medical care. The resources to find that care are in the description below. I'm Dr. Maya Roa. Your brain is worth protecting. And if you want to understand another way the brain and body intersect in ways that science is only beginning to explain, my last video on the most mysterious sexual disorders recognized by medicine is right here. Things most doctors have never heard of. Go watch it.